All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I'm starting to go over the PowerPoint presentation for the JavaScript 6th edition textbook. And I'm up to Chapter 2, which is on explaining JavaScript functions. But I want to mention to you that in here, I'm going to be breaking out a lot and creating our own stuff, so to speak. In fact, let me do this. Let me go to the index page. Let me just grab everything that's in here. All right. And I'm going to paste that in. So I've got my doc type statement. I've got my HTML tag. I've got my title tag. I don't want any of these comments in here anymore. My meta tag. I'm including this. Now what's important is I'm going to now, and I'll leave this comment in that's right here, because now I'm going to include my external JavaScript file. All right, and that'll come within a script tag, and I'm going to say in here source equals script.js. All right. And my ending script tag, which means that anything I put into that external file now, I'll be able to use. All right, so I'll have in here my ending head tag, my body tag, and my ending body tag, and my ending HTML tag. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this new index.html. All right, so I've got that. All right, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to create an external file, and we'll put some stuff in it. Function, we'll call it add2. Okay. Var num1 equals 17, var num2 equals 21, var answer equals num1 plus num2. And then we'll put document.write the sum of Now that looks a little funky. If I did this correctly, what should print out from this is the sum of 17 plus 21 equals 38. That's what should print. All right, if I did this correctly. So let's save this, and we're going to save this as script.js. Okay, so now we've got all that in there. All right. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to put in here onload equal add2. And hopefully this is going to work. We're going to find out right now. So let's save this. We've saved that. Good. Let's run this and see what shows, if anything, on our page. The sum of 17 plus 21 is 38. So what we told the system to do here was to include our external JavaScript file, which is right here. Then what we told the system to do was, as soon as the page is loaded into memory, call add2, which is the function from here. What this function is doing is what? This is declare and initialize variable num1. And as you'd guess, we're declaring and initializing here the variable num2. And here, we're doing the same thing. But here, we're declaring and initializing it as 17. Here, we're doing this as 21. But here, we're doing it as, let's change this from num1 to n1. So I want to make sure this fits on the screen. All right. So as n1 plus n2. And I've got to change this to n1, and I've got to change this to n2. All right? So what do we have here? A function is a unit of data. I'm sorry, it's part of a program that's designed to do just one thing. This is designed to just add two numbers. That's it. All right? What if I wanted to take this and make it so that rather than always initializing it, because every time I run it, I'm going to get this and I'm going to get this. All right? What if I wanted to take it so it took those numbers in? I could put in n1 and n2. All right, so now I don't need these anymore. And now the answer will be equal to n1 plus n2. But notice now when I call it, I can say, call this, and I'll pass it 44 and 55. If I did it right, this should say the sum of 44 plus 55 equals 99. And you can see that it does. Now, that was very quick, down and dirty. I did that literally off the top of my head. But let's talk about what's in here. All right? So what we want to do in this chapter is we want to be able to, use functions to organize our code, use expressions and operators, and identify an order of operator precedence. All right? Now, we're not working with object-oriented JavaScript right now. If we were, we'd be calling these things methods. Since we're working with non-object-oriented JavaScript, we're calling them functions. A function should be a unit of code that holds a related group of JavaScript statements that that ideally perform one task. They must be contained within a script element, directly or indirectly. All right, I had a named function. That named function was add2. All right, and it was called directly. A little later on, we're going to create anonymous functions. Anonymous functions are functions that don't have a name. All right? As it says, if you want to be able to reuse a function over and over and over again, you typically make it a named function. If you want to make it a one-time shot where you don't want to use it over and over and over again, you typically make it an anonymous function. So the syntax is function with the name of the function, any parameters, and I just showed you that with n1 and n2, and then inside of curly braces, your statements. That's for a name function. For an anonymous, it's the same, except since an anonymous function does not have a name, you remove the name of function there. A parameter is what you put inside of here. It's information that the function otherwise would not be able to function without it. No pun intended there. But again, with what we looked at, 44 and 55 are parameters that are passed into add2. The 44 becomes n1, the 55 becomes n2. And they've got their own examples that they're going to use here, which are fine. So let's look at their example. They've got a function here, one they're going to use that's called calculate volume. I'm going to copy all of their code. Come on. Ugh. There we go. Copy. And let's put that in here. So we're going to add another function. All right. That function will expect to have 3 pieces of data passed into it. A number representing length, a number representing width, and a number representing height. All right. So let's go back here and in onload, instead of calling add to, let's call calculate volume. And let's pass in 10, 20, and 30. So that 10 that we're passing in represents the length, the 20 that we pass in represents the width, and the 30 that we pass in represents the height. All right, so let's write out a little bit more than we're writing. So let's write this. Document.write. Length equal plus length plus, I'm going to put in here a \n, which means I want to continue on another line. Width equals plus width plus \n, and I need another plus sign here, and I need another plus sign here, and this will say height equals plus height that's interesting, okay, plus a \n plus, and finally we'll say volume equals, a little anal about this stuff here, so plus volume. So let's see what we get when we run this. All right. Ideally, when we run this, it's going to come back and print on the screen length equal 10, width equal 20, height equal 30, volume equal 600. Let's see if indeed that's what we get. How did I save? I did not. Let's try it again. So length equal 10, it did not accept my \n. I'm going to replace those with BR tags, but you can see we've got everything else that we need here. So let's replace these \n's with a BR tag. Now let's see what happens when we run this. All right, so length is 10, width is 20, height is 30, volume is 6,000. That doesn't look right. It should have been 600. 10 times 20 is 200. 200 times 30 is 6,000. Yeah, it actually did. It was correct. So as we can see right here, the statements inside of the function did our actual work. All right, they were contained within curly braces. In our case, we put them in an external .js file, and that was it. I added a little bit more to the document.write statement. To execute a name function, you invoke it or call it. That was what I put in my HTML file where I said onload equal, and I had in double quotes, calculate volume. That was the call to the function, and I passed it in the 3 parameters, the 10, the 20, and the 30, representing the width, the length, and the height, or whatever the heck it was. Those parameters are also referred to as arguments. The act of taking arguments and sending them from, in our case, from our HTML file to our JS file. We're passing arguments. We were sending the arguments to parameters of the called function. All right? Okay. When you handle events, there's 3 ways that you can do these. Okay? So this is what I just showed you. Input type equals submit. So we could have put a button in there. In fact, let's do all of these. Maybe that'll help a little. So let's look at all 3 of these. I'm going to get rid of this onload that's right there, and I'm going to put in this. So this is going to be a button, and its name will be just run. That's what it'll say on the name of the button. When we click the button, what'll happen is we want to do this. So I'm going to get rid of the word onload. I'm going to take all of this stuff that we have here, and I'm going to put it here. If I did this correctly, this will work the same way, but the difference is now there'll be a button here that says run on it. When we click the button, we should get the same results we got before. There's our button. We click run. There's our results. All right, so that's another way that this can be done. So I'm going to take these 2 lines and comment them out. Remember, I'm in HTML, so I've got a comment like this. All right. I can specify it like this. Document.getElementById.onClick. So I want to show you that in just a second. So in order to do that, I need to give my button an ID, which it currently does not have. All right, so let me uncomment this, comment that. So I'm going to say ID equals submit button. All right, so that's it for that. But this right here, okay, I'm going to put that down here. So we're going to add yet more code. So this is a named function. This was a named function. But now I'm going to do something a little bit different. All right. I'm going to say document.getElementById.onClick, which means when we click this, we're going to say this. Function, paren, curly brace. All right. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do all of this. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to actually come in here and create these as variables. So I'm going to say var length equal 10, var width equal 20, var height equal 30, just like we had before. All right, so we're going to do the same thing, but we're putting our code inside of here. This is what's called an anonymous function. It does not have a name. So let's look and see if it still works. We still got a run button. We click run, we get the same information. The difference is what we did this time was we didn't call it from here. All right? We could have still set it on click. We would have called the other one, but here we're just setting up the button. Then in our JavaScript, we're telling the system, remember, this is an event-driven language. So we're telling it to listen for a click event for our submit button. Once that click event happens, call this function and do all this stuff. Again, we're just getting into this, so if it doesn't make a lot of sense, don't worry about it. All right, the add event listener, I'm going to hold off on that for a while. All right, so let's keep going. Adding an event lister is the most flexible. We have a whole chapter on that later. I don't want to confuse you too much. All right. In JavaScript, you can use something called the console. All right. I'm going to purposely make a mistake in my code that I had here before. I'm purposely making a mistake. All right. So I'm going to say here, volume equals length times width times height. I'm going to leave that T off of there. That's an error. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my web page. All right. I'm going to click run. And I think it only worked because I had that loaded in there previously. I think it's grabbing an old copy. So let me close it and try to run it again. All right. So, and I didn't save. There's the problem. So run. Now notice when I click run, nothing happens. An error was actually generated. To see that error, I can right mouse click on my web page, choose inspect, go down to here. Now I'm in what's called the developer tools, click console, and notice what it's telling me. Cannot set property of onClick of null, and it's telling me in line 20, I have an error. It doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. The actual error is right here, but where it's discovering the error is right here. So I can use the console as a way of debugging my JavaScript programs. We're going to get into that in much more length and breadth of coverage. But you'll notice if I come back here, change that so that's a T again, go back and run the program again, click run. Oh, now it looks like now I've goofed something up. Submit button. No, I would have thought that was correct now. But we're going to take a look at it right now. Morning. And we're going to see exactly what happens. So let's take a look at it like we just did. So we'll go run, Chrome, go back in here, do an inspect again, go into the console and see if it gives us an error. Cannot set property onClick of null. Still saying in line 20 it's got something here it does not like. I'm not sure what the problem is, but we'll have to come back and fix that, okay? What I wanted to show you right there, though, was just to start to get you into the mindset of locating errors. All right? And that was more of the same. Okay, you can use a return statement in when you call a function. So here's a function that is averaging two numbers. Let's take a look at that. We'll use actually that example. So I want to grab that code, copy it to the clipboard, come back to our script.js file, and let's paste that in. All right. So it's averaging three numbers. Our sum of numbers. Okay, return result. Let's make another function up above this. So we're going to call it function three numbers. All right, and we're going to say here var n1 equals 17, var n2 equals 34, var n3 equals 128. Then we're going to call average numbers, and we're going to pass it in n1, n2, and n3. And we're going to say var avg equals this. All right. Then we're going to look at something new that's called an alert. I'm going to say alert So I'm going to say alert the average of, I'm just going to put hard code them in there, 17 plus 34 plus 128 is, and we'll put in the average. and I'll put in 2 fixed. So I'll put it to 2 decimal places. I don't remember if that 2 and 2 fixed is uppercase or lowercase, but we'll try it like that anyway. All right, so 3 numbers. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back here, and originally we put this in our body tag. We're going to put that in there again. All right, so I'm going to say body onload equal 3 numbers. So that should call that routine. So let's save it, and let's run the program. Well, I'm starting to run into some bad luck here. Missing paren after argument list. 3 numbers is not defined on onload. Okay. Let's fix that. I think it's that bracket that was goofing things up. I need the bracket though. Onload equal 3 numbers. It's in script, 3 numbers. 3 numbers. Save, let's try it again. And again, I'm having some bad luck here. What I'm going to do is, because my class is getting ready to start, is I'm going to pause. I'm going to put this into a 2-part lecture. So I'm going to end part 1 right now. So when I come back, I'll have this fixed, and we'll finish up with chapter 2.